Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us, and welcome to this week's teleconference. We're going to go ahead and get right into it. We're now joined with Shawn Clark, the head coach of App State. If you have a question for Coach Clark, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, thank you for joining us. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Just happy to get a win against a very good Charlotte football program, and did a lot of things good, but have a lot of mistakes get squared away, fumbles, turnovers, and bad play on special teams. But again, we were able to get a win. We'll move on and learn from this.
Thank you very much, Coach. Our first questions come from Chris Benini with The Athletic. Please go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Shawn, between your guys' win over Charlotte and in the conference going 3-0 against the Big 12, what does it kind of say about the talent in the conference, and what did it mean to see that?
I think it speaks volumes for our conference. I think we have really good head coaches in our conference and great players. And when you see us on a week in and week out basis like we do, it's not surprising to see that. Again, congratulations to all the coaches and all the teams that won this week. I think it's a great representation of our conference.
Hey, you mentioned the special teams mistakes. There were a lot of special teams mistakes all over the country. Is that a part of the game you think that maybe, with all the weird stuff going on, maybe doesn't get enough or didn't get enough attention in fall camp?
It was surprising for us, to be honest with you, because that's something that we spent a majority of our time in camp. And, again, it was one of those situations that we weren't staying in our lanes and weren't tackling very well, but we were able to get out the win. And all day yesterday we were working on special teams, so we have to improve in order to win this weekend.
Thanks, Shawn.
Thank you, Chris. Our next questions come from Tony Barnhart with the SEC Network. Please go ahead, Tony.
Hi, Shawn. There are five teams from the group of five in the top 25 right now. I know it's early, but there's going to be conversations about how we should look at these teams when we start talking about playoff possibilities and should they be considered. Just as a general principle, what are your thoughts about these group of five conferences and conference champions being considered for the playoff?
Well, again, I think it's very hard to win in college football week in and week out. I don't care who you're playing. But if your resume at the end of the season is up there with the top guys, I think we should give it a shot. And just like last year with us, we beat two Power 5 teams, and you look across the country. And if it's, in my personal opinion, if your resume looks good and you beat some Power 5 programs, then you should be considered for those spots.
Thanks.
All right, thank you, Tony. Our next questions come from John Raby with the Associated Press. Please go ahead, John.
Hi, Coach. Marshall's quarterback, redshirt freshman, had a pretty good game a couple weeks ago, and just wanted to get your impressions of him.
Grant Wells, he's an unbelievable player. He's from my hometown, my high school that I went to, and I've kind of followed Grant through his high school career, and I just know he's an incredible young man with incredible arm talent, and he also can beat you with your feet. So I had a chance to watch the tape last night against EKU, and it was like he was doing 7-on-7 out there versus Eastern Kentucky. So we have our hands full, but I just know what kind of quality young man he is and his parents, where he comes from, and it'll be a great challenge for us this week.
John, do you have any follow-ups?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, John. Our next questions come from Dan Mcdonald with the Acadiana Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach. I know that you've been around for around the Sun Belt a couple of years, and you've also been to some other areas. Y'all have had some national notoriety, but how do you think the Sun Belt has been perceived nationally? And do you think that changed a little bit after what happened over the weekend with all the national TV exposure and the success?
Well, again, I just can't say enough of the quality coaches in our conference and the players also. Those guys have something to prove on a weekly basis. And I just can't say enough about Bill and his program and Blake and his program and Coastal Carolina. They went on the road and won big games, and that's what you have to do in our conference. You have to go win big games. And again, I can't say enough about our conference, and from top to bottom, if you're not playing your best game in this conference every week, you'll get beat.
Do you think there's more exposure nationally right now, and because there are not as many teams out there playing, with a couple leagues not playing so far, do you think this is has even, it sounds funny to say, but has this virus sort of been a good thing for the Sun Belt as far as national exposure?
It is for us. Speaking for Appalachian State, just because you go look at our schedule in the month of October, we're on ESPN 3 times. We have Lafayette here. We go to Georgia Southern and then come back here and play Arkansas State. And anytime you can put your university, your program on a national stage, I think it speaks volumes for where you're at, and it helps in recruiting also.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today. We do appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. If everyone stand by, we'll have a brief hold here. We'll have Jamey Chadwell of Coastal Carolina on here shortly. Please stand by. All right, and then we are now joined with Coach Chadwell of Coastal Carolina. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, good morning. Thank you for joining us. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Yes, thank you, Gus. Obviously, it was a great night for our team and program there Saturday night. I thought we came out of the gate really fast. I thought our guys played well in all 3 phases, and really proud of our young quarterback. Thought he did a lot of good things. But it was a great team effort. And the thing I was pleased about more than anything is we got off to a great start. We hit a little lull there in the third quarter, but we were able to finish the game, and we had trouble doing that last year. And I thought that was good to see for our first time out. Didn't have a lot of mistakes, so I thought it was a good, clean game by us.
Thank you very much, Coach. Our first questions come from Chris Benini with The Athletic. Please go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Jamey. Obviously, Sun Belt goes 3-0 against the Big 12. Did you guys know about some of the other scores going into your game and think about what it could mean for the league to get another win like that?
We definitely did. We definitely knew that we were 2-0 and didn't want to be the one to lose. We knew that could. The Sun Belt had shown well up to that point, and we wanted to make sure we weren't the one that didn't follow through, because we figured after being 2-0, all eyes would be on that third one to see if we could run the trifecta there, and so our guys were aware of it, and I talked about it in our pregame. Said, hey, we're representing obviously our school, but we're also representing our conference. We got a chance to do something today that can be historic for us and really put the Sun Belt out in the forefront of what's going on college football wise, and I'm glad we could be a part of that.
And what does it say for the league to have those 3 wins, and especially you guys beating Kansas 2 years in a row?
Well, I've always obviously been in this league. The guys, the Lafayettes, the Apps, obviously Arkansas State. Those guys have had good programs for a long time, and they can compete with anybody in this country. I believe that, and I think that shows you the type of talent, type of teams, and coaching that our guys have. And for us, we're obviously trying to build a program in the Sun Belt that can be competitive with the rest of those teams, and it's hard because they're good. But I think what it showed us is, last year you could, maybe say it was a fluke a little bit beating them, but this year we pretty much dominated the game. So I think that shows the direction our program's heading as well. And hopefully we want to be known, the Sun Belt, we want to be known as a league that from top to bottom is there's no off weeks. There's good football each week, and hopefully we can continue to build and get our programs to the point that we're considered up there like the top teams in our program, in our conference, excuse me.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, thanks, Chris. Next questions come from Dennis Dodd with CBS Sports. Please go ahead, Dennis.
Hey, Jamey, congratulations. With not to diminish the win, but with not everybody playing this fall, is this a great opportunity for the Sun Belt just in general to show how good it is?
I believe so. When everybody's playing and when everybody's on TV, sometimes the G5 conferences get put on the back burner, and we now have the opportunity to be on the forefront. We're on TV more. We have these opportunities to play these, Power 5 conferences and have a chance to really show who we are. And I think you'll see this league has been good for a long time, and we've had a great bowl percentage the last few years. We've had obviously teams in the top 25, but I think now more and more people across the country, because the lack of inventory, so to speak, the lack of games, they're going to have a chance to really see us, week in and week out, and I think realize that we are a really good conference from top to bottom, and we got really good teams and coaches, and so that's probably the blessing in disguise, Dennis, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and you I think you just touched on it, but how much was it an advantage that you had played and beaten them last year, that wasn't intimidated by, the Big 12 logo or anything like that?
Well, I think you definitely had confidence because you did it before. And then, obviously, this year being an away game, it's not like you had to worry about, fans and et cetera. So when you go into an away environment, it's just an away game. It's not like it's a menacing environment anymore. So that part's out of it. And so our guys going in felt like, hey, we're capable of winning this game and playing well. And we weren't surprised that we won the way we did. I think our kids were confident we could go out and play and do that. And so and part of that, not having fans or having limited fans, that's when you go on to an opponent like that takes away maybe some of the or some of the mystique of going to a Big 12 place or name it, because of the crowd and the fan base and the tailgating. None of that exists. So you're just really rolling into a practice, and so and our guys were confident, and I think they played that way from the get-go.
And real quick, there was a video after the game somewhere that I saw that one of your players took a sledgehammer to something in the locker room that just said Kansas Jayhawks on it, but I don't know what that was. Is it a piece of white rock or something? What was that?
Well, each week, Dennis, we play for a championship. One of my coaches picks. I pick them for each week, and they have to pick a championship we're playing for. And this week versus Kansas, it was because they're Rock Chalk Jayhawk. We got a big rock, and that was what we were playing for. And so if we won the game, we were going to rock the Jayhawks, so to speak. That's where the pinata came from last year. So. Yeah.
Okay, I get it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you, Dennis. And we will now go to Alan Blondin with the Sun News. Please go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, hey, Jamey. One, a lot was made of the front seven on defense in the preseason, and not a whole lot. There was a lot of uncertainty about the defensive backfield. What were your impressions of your defensive backfield? Do you believe that you've upgraded there this year and, may be able to do some more things than you did last year?
Well, another year in the system, I think we're better there, Alan. But some of the plays that we did give up were misplays from our secondary, misfits, so to speak. So we still got to improve there. I do think we played improved in that game. I think our guys played with more confidence. But that's still an area of concern. Our overall, just the guys that need to play and have to play, just the depth and playing up to that level. But we were improved. I thought you saw the Jordan Strong, junior college transfer for us. He had a really big game. Derek Bush played a pretty good game, so they both improved, and we still got to get better there. But I thought we were improved, but not enough to where if we're going to make our name in this league, we got to play better back there consistently.
And secondly, is your intention to start Grayson McCall at quarterback for the rest of the year, or is that still somewhat of a contested position?
Well, we compete all the time, but it's his job, and he earned that job, and we're going to ride with him through the ups and downs of a freshman quarterback.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now joined with Steve Campbell, head coach of South Alabama. If you have a question for Coach Campbell, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Coach, thank you very much for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Yes. Very disappointing loss this past week to a very good Tulane team. We asked our kids to start fast, and we did that. I thought we shot out the gates well, played good early, and then couldn't make the plays to put the game away in the fourth quarter, offensively or defensively. We had opportunities on both sides and just weren't quite able to get it done. And so, a disappointing defeat, something that we'll learn from and use as we move forward.
And now we turn the page and start getting ready for a very good UAB football team. We have an open week this Saturday, and then we play the following Thursday. Another chance to win at home. So we're excited about it. Looking forward to a great game.
Thank you, Coach. Our first questions come from Dan McDonald with the Acadiana Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach. If I could ask about putting your game aside and so forth, and what happened across the Sun Belt. You've been around the league for a little while. Does what happened over the weekend sort of verify what you and a lot of other coaches have been saying about the quality of football in this league?
Definitely. I mean, there were some great wins for the conference this past week, and and I was not surprised. I was not surprised at all. I mean, Sun Belt from top to bottom is a very, very tough league, and then our guys throughout the conference. I know that everybody's been working hard all summer, and I was not surprised at all, and that does kind of give validation. If you look back over the last couple of years, the bowl records of the Sun Belt Conference has been right at the top. When you compare G5 and Power 5, the Sun Belt win percentage is right at the top, and this past weekend was very indicative of that.
Was there some? I know you're disappointed in losing because you had the game. It looked like almost under control. Was it? Did it add to the disappointment that you opened a brand new, beautiful new stadium, and it looked like you were on your way to open it in a really good manner?
Yeah, every one of them. Every time I've ever been beat, our team's been beat. It's very disappointing. Now would we have loved to have? Of course we would have. That would have made that win that much sweeter. But every loss is you take it tough, but then you move on. You got another one to play. I mean, you try to learn from it and you move on. Yes, it was very disappointing, but I mean they all hurt.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dan. And our next questions come from Ronald Wallace with Ballin' Down South. Please go ahead, Ronald.
Hey, how you doing today, Coach?
Good. How are you doing?
Pretty good. Hands off. You guys have a magnificent stadium there at South Alabama. I know you started Trotter first, and then you put Chance in. What made the decision, to go ahead and change that quarterback?
Well, we hadn't scored, and I feel like we've got two good quarterbacks there, and we needed to, score some points to try to win the game. And Desmond, we'd given him a couple of series, and he'd done some good things, but we wanted to get Chance in there. And we told him before the game, the guy, we're going to start Desmond, and Desmond, we score early and all that, and moving the football, and then you'll stay in there till either the third or fourth series, unless if we've scored every time you've got the ball, you're staying in there. So we put Chance in, we went down and scored, and then Chance had the hot hand, so we stuck with him. So I feel like we've got two good players there, and both of them are. That was Desmond's sixth start, and Chance got here back in January. So we've still got two young football players that are competing and trying to help the team win.
Now you can correct me. One more question. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe they both definitely got different types of skill sets. I know each week, depending on what team you're playing, how the ball game's going, that's how you'll make your decision. And you put the best player in that help you win the game. Yeah,
that's I would say that's what we're that's the plan. I think we've got two really good players that they can both can do a lot of good things and get the ball to the people that can make plays, and depending on who's got the hot hand and all of that, that's definitely what we'll go with. And because the deal is let's try to win the football game. We've got two good players there to help us do that.
All right. Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Ronald. And thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for today. We do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. All right.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And we are now joined with Jake Spavital, the head coach of Texas State. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, thank you for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Yeah, disappointing loss. I never question the effort and the fight of our players. I think when you look at all the ups and downs and being down 17 at halftime and 13 in the fourth quarter, and our kids battled back to have a chance to win that game, and unfortunately the ball didn't bounce our way, and that's kind of been the message right now with our team is that there's nothing really we can do right now except learn from our mistakes, keep our team close, and keep our head down and keep grinding and keep playing with this effort, and eventually the ball is going to bounce our way, and unfortunately it didn't, but I think there's a lot of upside in terms of just the some of the leadership role. It's the first time I've had since my time here at Texas State where there was some ownership and leadership in the locker room after that game, and I think our kids are ready to get back to work and get out there and start our conference play as we go to ULM this weekend. So, questions?
Thank you, Coach. First questions come from Dan Mcdonald with the Acadiana Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach. You talked about your team and so forth. You're a couple of breaks away from being 2-0 instead of 0-2. How do you sort of keep, with everything else going on, how do you sort of keep that mindset that, we're just going to, as the cliche goes, one at a time?
Yeah, that's like I actually said that yesterday to the team. There is a lot of coach speak, and you hear that a lot, but it's so true. Just based off of the uncertainties, and you go into game day and you get a phone call and says that you can't play with 6 players, and and that's there's no excuses for us. We've had this discussion before the season. It's all about, hey, we get to play college football, and we're very fortunate to do it, and we put 11 guys out there, and it's all about the next man up, and I think that these kids they put a lot of effort and work into trying to get to this moment. And, we as coaches have to understand their strengths and weaknesses. And that's probably been the most difficult thing as coaches right now of, you have your starters out there and you're pretty familiar with what they do, and you can get a little bit more exotic and do more things with them. And then, as your depth starts to diminish and the game starts to go on, you're starting to put out some kids with not very much experience. So you really got to base your game plan down, and you got to do some things that these kids can operate without hesitation. But, I think these kids are putting a lot of effort into this. And, our main thing is we just got to keep working through this, because eventually the ball is going to bounce our way, because we're so close in these games, like you've been saying. And if we just keep doing what we're doing, don't change the plan, don't panic, just keep fighting and playing with the effort that we play with, I think the ball is eventually going to bounce our way.
Let me ask you about, this is your second year in the league, and after what happened this past weekend and what is really your region of the country too, right there in the middle of the Big 12, does that kind of validate what you and the other coaches have been saying for a couple of years about the quality of the league?
Yeah, no, I was fired up to see those 3 wins from the Big 12, and you just look across the board and everybody's competing. That makes you proud to be a part of this league, and being in the Big 12, you watch, you go through that for a few years, and then you go through the Sun Belt for a year, and you can see this team has this league has quality talent, but there's really good coaches in this league. And you sit there, and sometimes we get overlooked in this league, and you see that, all the national attention that we've gotten with going 3-0 in the Big 12, I think there's going to be a lot more eyes on us, where I don't think as many people would take this league as lightly as they normally do.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Dan. Our next questions come from Chris Benini with The Athletic. Please go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Jake, you guys obviously had a lot of big special teams plays, both good and bad. I mean, across the country, it seemed like there were all sorts of kind of wild special team stuff. Is that an aspect of the game you think is maybe affected by having a different kind of fall camp and not having a spring maybe an aspect of the game that isn't worked on as much?
Oh yeah, I think that's a big deal with all the depth chart changes that occurred during the week. You sit there and talk with our special teams coordinator, and like we had to change 3 kids' jersey numbers right before the game just so there wasn't any conflict of putting the same jersey number on the field, because there's that potential of it. So like there's constant communication and discussions about who's our backups are, and like the thing is you can't be afraid to just play a young kid. You got to play a fresh body at times, and that's what we're learning through this whole process. I thought in the first game versus SMU we were gassed a little bit as a team because our starters were running down on kickoff and we were running out of depth. But then you go in the next game and we started putting fresh bodies out there, and you give them a role and they have to grow up and they got to go play. And it's pretty interesting to watch these kids go out there and take pride in special teams because that's their only role that they got. But at the same time, man, there's a lot of headaches and a lot of discussions for our special teams coordinator to make sure that we have enough guys that at least repped it and making sure that we don't have any duplicate numbers on the field.
Yeah. Well, appreciate the time, Jake. Thanks.
I appreciate it, Chris.
All right. Thank you, Chris. And thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today. We do appreciate it.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we are now joined with Chad Lunsford, the head coach of Georgia Southern. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, thank you very much for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Yeah, no problem. Thank y'all for having me. Hard-fought victory this past Saturday. Hats off to a Campbell team that came in here and gave us everything we wanted. It became a 60-minute game that our guys had to dig deep and find a way to get a 1-point victory. And it was an ugly win, but our guys did fight and did a good job to get that win. Got a lot of things to clean up. Got a lot of great film to watch to try to get better from last week to this week. Got a huge challenge coming in with Florida Atlantic coming to us, and so excited about that challenge, excited about the week that we have before us to be able to get ready to play, and looking forward to doing that on ESPN.
All right, thank you, Coach. Our first questions come from Dan Mcdonald with the Acadiana Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach. I know this will sound like a crazy question, but how difficult was it to try to even put your alignment out there, your special teams out there, when you don't have about a third of your depth chart available?
We had to get creative. We were going into this season before the pandemic. We were going into this season as a very experienced football team. We ended up with, Saturday we ended up with 10 guys with their first start. We had 15 guys that played their very first game. And we had 3 transfers that had never played at Georgia Southern. So it was kind of interesting. I think there was a lot of, questions of, did we have to make all those decisions, right before game time? That was not the case. We knew what we were going into in the first game. Everybody that played, we had practiced all week. So again, now it's been an interesting preseason, and so you don't have as many, I guess, reps invested in people that you would like at this time. But we did have them for a full week, and that was and that's who we played with. So probably leading up to the week before practice and before that game week, there was definitely a lot of discussion of which way we were going to go, and then we were able to get our weekly tests back, and nothing affected that. So we did have a week to get them prepared, and the great thing is we had 10 guys with their first start and 15 guys with their first game, so they got a lot in action.
Can this also be a positive for you going forward, and that you've had a lot of guys get some reps early?
I think we've got to look at it that way for sure. We played some guys that probably were not ready to play yet. We played, when you start talking about 15 guys play their first game, that's an eye opener. And So I think it definitely is going to be a positive because those guys finally got to feel what it was like. And I think, that game film was very invaluable for them. I mean, we spent a lot of time yesterday going through that game film. I think that was definitely invaluable for them because they needed to see themselves in a game setting. The preseason hasn't been like it normally would be. We hadn't got as many scrimmages in that we would do, actual live playing of football. So getting that game in was very good for those guys.
If I could ask one more real quick, with what happened in the league this week across the league, does that sort of validate what you and other coaches have been saying about the quality of this league for a couple of years?
Oh, there's no question. I think the quality of the Sun Belt with coaching and players, I'm not sure if the country really understands it. We enjoy it, man. I mean, you got to be ready to play every week. And I think that showed. I mean, for three teams to go get wins in the Big 12, I think that showed exactly what our league's about. And, I'm happy for those teams. I'm happy for those coaches and those players, man, because they worked very hard to put their, to put that out there and try to get that done, and they were able to.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Our next questions come from Dennis Dodd with CBS Sports. Please go ahead, Dennis.
Hey, Coach. I don't know if this question has ever been asked in the Sun Belt, but what kind of difference is there between the top teams in the Sun Belt and maybe some of the lower teams in Power 5 schools? Because that question is out there now.
I don't know if there's a lot of difference. Obviously the 85 scholarships and the thing that you battle in recruiting is, all right, is a guy going to choose Power 5 over a Group of 5? Yeah. But I think with the lower Power 5s and the upper Group of 5s, I think there's a lot of probably really good recruiting battles that probably go both ways. I know it has for us and some of the guys that we've recruited. So I think probably other than budget, I think talent level is probably going to be about the same. And I think that, the big piece would probably be the budget end of things, maybe not as big a budget for the Group of 5 teams, but when you get out on that playing field, man, I think there is a lot of similarities.
Yeah. And also the 33 on Saturday, I think I missed it, but how many of those were starters?
Okay, so it would have been 8 starters for us.
Okay.
And then probably about 9 guys that that we're kind of counting on to contribute. So probably 17 of the 33 were probably guys that would have definitely saw significant playing time.
Is it fair to say most of those were COVID, or some of them, or what?
Well, I can't comment on that as far as specific numbers. We've done fairly well in the testing piece. Not many positives. Contact tracing is something that we're dealing with, and I know everybody around the country is dealing with that. The contact tracing piece is probably our biggest issue. But some of these guys also were, we had a couple suspensions, and then we also, coach's discretion. And what I mean by that is if guys have been in quarantine and have not gotten the reps in and maybe not been able to, keep their bodies in shape like we really want to, we had to be very smart about that also and be mindful about it.
Yeah.
And then your injury piece too, your normal football injuries.
I got a call right after that game from a well-respected guy in Las Vegas who said the gamblers there now are willing to pay top dollar for the COVID information. They can figure out the injuries, but the COVID information, I just wanted your reaction to that, how unseemly that might be that, they're so desperate for that information.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely understand it with the, being able to set the line and over and under and all the stuff that goes along with it. I mean, I could definitely see why that information is needed. It's I don't want to use the word frustrating because I mean it definitely is. As a competitor, it's frustrating. But, as long as everybody's having to deal with it the same way,
Yeah.
and as long as it's fair across the board, the unfortunate part is I don't know what everybody does with their quarantines. I don't know what everybody does with their positives and what the return to play protocol. I don't know if all that is fair. But if it is somewhat fair, then it's hard to get frustrated at that. I mean, we are playing in a pandemic.
Yeah. No, I didn't mean to make it sound bad, because gambling, I mean, it's legal across the country now. It's going to be. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
No question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right. Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today. We do appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and we are now joined with defensive coordinator for Arkansas State, David Duggan. Blake Anderson is unavailable today, so David was nice enough to fill in and join us. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Coach, thank you for joining us. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
As Coach Anderson said, it was a good win, not a great win. We played a pretty good Kansas State football team, and we were missing a few players, and a couple guys had to step up and and talked about control what you can control, and don't worry about things you can't control, and just give us great effort all game. And I thought our guys did that, and we came out feeling pretty good about ourselves after the win.
Thank you, Coach. Our first questions come from Chris Benini with The Athletic. Please go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Dave. Obviously it was a big day for the Sun Belt. 3 wins over the Big 12, including you guys. What does that say about the league, and what do you think it means?
Well, I think it's a great start for our conference. Our conference continues to get better and better, and this obviously is a statement weekend for the Sun Belt, and hopefully we can continue to build on it and grow from it, and the positive publicity that we generated on Saturday is going to do nothing but benefit us as a conference.
And I know you focused on the defense, but special teams wise, you guys have had some big, good and bad plays on special teams, and really across the country there's been a lot of special teams just things going on. Is that an aspect of the game that maybe didn't get as much attention in preseason camp, considering everything that's been going on?
Well, I don't think with us it's that way. Obviously we were fortunate enough to have 11 practices in the spring, so we were able to rep it. I do think that there were some guys plugged into some roles this past weekend that might not have been getting a lot of time in practice reps, just because of the thinness of our football team this past weekend, with a bunch of guys being unable to make the trip. So as a result, you're coaching some guys, on the fly, they're trying to execute as best they can. So, but usually, like when you're down a couple players, the first area that takes the hit is the special teams, because your backline guys are being pulled up to be starters, and those are your major contributors to special teams. And as a result, they're playing more on, offense or defense, and now is, and being asked to go run special teams as well. So I think the speed of everything gets slowed down a little bit, with the attrition. That's the first place you start to see, results, is the trickle-down effect of special teams.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate the time.
Okay, no problem.
All right, thank you, Chris. Our next questions come from Luke Matheson with Red Wolf Report. Please go ahead, Luke.
Hey, Dave, I know there was a change this past week. You went up in the booth. Coach Alan Johnson came down to the sidelines, and just how was that a little bit different? And talk about that change, if you don't mind.
Well, in the first game, I just felt that, there was 1 or 2 plays that we had a little bit of difficulty diagnosing. And, just trying to get another set of eyes on the offensive front and, the scheme and everything. And it gave me a little bit more chance to think up there, and I could sit down and have, you could have conversation. You could, plan out your thoughts, whereas when I'm on the sideline, you're constantly trying to get corrections made, and your thought process, isn't as thorough as it was, sitting up in the box. And so I think we're going to continue with that role until, further notice. I did think it benefited me as a play caller just to, have some thoughts ahead of time. So it gave me more time to talk with our Ed Pinkham and the guys on the phones. And so hopefully we'll continue with it, and we'll continue to get the good results.
All right. Obviously, you wasn't here last time that UCA came to town, but they came into Jonesboro, left with a win against the Red Wolves, and I know that's on their mind again this week. What have you guys got to do to be prepared for UCA?
Well, I think it's obviously they're a good football team. They've got some. I don't know much about them defensively. I know that they're pretty talented defensively. Just listening to our guys talk, but they've got some skill offensively. They've got an experienced quarterback, Braylon Smith, and he's very talented to make all the throws if you need being made. He can move around and keep the plays alive. They got two returning receivers that are listed as preseason, all Southland Conference, that they're going to challenge our guys. And so, we're just trying to focus on making sure that, it's the process. It's not who we're playing. They're a good football team, and we know that, but we got to continue to improve on our side of the ball as well. And the preparation is about, basically us, focusing on, trying to get better from game 2. How do we improve? K-State, it was a good win, but it wasn't, we still had flaws in our system. And so we're trying to make sure that we continue to get better and continue to get those corrections made.
All right. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
And we have time for one more. We'll go to Kara Ritchie with 95.3 The Ticket. Please go ahead, Kara.
Hey, good morning, Coach. I was wondering, you go from week 1, 9-17 third down conversions for Memphis there, 1 of 11 last week. What was the difference there on those plays?
I think some of it has to do with what you're seeing offensively, the down and distances that you're in. There was a couple that we did not execute well against Memphis. We had some coverage busts, but also, they do a good job of getting the football out fast, and certain down and distances, they don't allow you to get, hits on the quarterback. And then when we did have the situations, when we did have a chance, we didn't execute. This week I felt we executed a little bit better, and didn't have as many missed assignments. So obviously, it produced results for us.
Thank you, Kara, and thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today. We do appreciate it.
Okay, no problem, guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And we are now joined with Matt Viator, the head coach of ULM. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, thank you for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Sure, thanks. It was good to play Saturday. We got beat by a better team. Army they executed really well and looked really good, especially for this time of the year. For us, it was really good to get out and play, and with whoever we had, and to get out and play and let's get it on film and let's see where we're at. And that was kind of the I guess takeaway coming back. At least we got out there and played and got to evaluate some things, made some mistakes in the kicking game, had absolutely zero rhythm offensively, zero. And we just we got to work through those things and and try to get better this week. I thought defensively, after they scored the first 2 drives to start the game, we really settled in. And it was 17-7 there in the third quarter, and they faked a punt on us. But I thought we held up defensively. They're pretty good there for the second and third quarters. And we just have to learn from it. It was a great experience. Go to West Point, and anyway, we just got to move forward. Really impressed with Texas State. I'm impressed with what Coach Spavital has done with his football team, and a lot of new guys. When you look at that, we're comparing the depth charts to last year. There's a lot of new players on his team. They're playing fast. Look like they're having a lot of fun playing. and it shows. I mean, two really good outings, for them. And I know I'm sure they're disappointed that they're 0-2, but I thought they played really good in both games against SMU and UTSA. And but offensively, they're going to give you some problems in the spread and formations, and whether it was McBride in the first week or in the second week, quarterback. They got some good players on the outside. Both the running backs are playing really good, and with Sturgis and Hill, I mean, both of them are new from what we've seen from previous years, and they both give them some home run hitting ability there at running back. Defensively, they're going to attack, and a lot similar to what they did last year with different players, but they're playing fast and playing good, and they topped all that off with a punt return for a touchdown last week in special teams. So it'll be good to play at home. But we know we certainly have a tough test this week because Texas State's playing good.
Thank you, Coach. Our first questions come from Dan McDonald with the Acadiana Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach.
Hey, Dan. How you doing?
Doing well. I know you're not going to make excuses, but you were playing a team that just looks different than probably anybody you'll see all year. And was there a difference in only having the 3 or 4 weeks and knowing that you, way back in February or March, that you were going to see those guys?
No, really. I mean, we didn't know we were going to play them until several weeks ago, when all the shuffle was going on and, some of the teams choosing not to, some of the conferences choosing not to play. So we actually added this game. I remember we added it after camp had started, and, we had several options, and and no pun intended with them running the option, but I mean, there was several different things that were going on in the schedule, and it worked out, for a week 2 game that we had a chance to go there. But look, I mean, we just didn't play good enough to win. But I mean, I don't think it's anything. I thought we held up pretty good, from a physical standpoint, and we just didn't execute offensively. When you look at that, that was the biggest thing, because they're going to control the ball like they always do, and they're going to have it, and they're going to run the clock down. And I thought, we kind of pressed a little bit when we did get chances with the ball rather than trying to sustain drives. We went for too many big plays, I guess, and then, we broke down in a couple areas of the special teams, and, so just things we got to work, Dan.
You've been around this league for a while. Does what went on in the league this week with, big wins over the Big 12 and so forth, does that sort of validate what you and the other coaches and a lot of other people have been saying about this league and the quality of football?
Oh, no doubt. I mean, obviously, the Cajuns going to Iowa State, we've been there, and, you go there and, you have to be able to match them physically because they're a physical football team. And then when I didn't get to see any of the Arkansas State win, but when we got home, we got in and set myself down or whatever and got to flipping around the channels, and it was 21-0. Coastal was beating Kansas. Wow. And it was right there before that, I don't know, sometime in the second quarter. But so I watched some of that game, and Coastal just lined up and beat them. I thought beat them up front, beat them everywhere else. So, no, I'm not, doesn't shock me because there's a lot of talent in this league, and it was great to see. I mean, it kind of, otherwise very, very disappointing day for me, for us, but it certainly kind of put a smile on my face whenever I got home and saw some of those scores.
Appreciate it, Coach. Good luck to y'all.
Thank you, Dan.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. And thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today.
Thanks. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. And we are now joined with Billy Napier, the head coach of Louisiana. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, thank you for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Well, obviously, good quality road win. I felt like as a result of all 3 phases of the game, really doing what they needed to do to play complementary ball, really impressed. Offensively, maybe not our best day, but really impressed with the defense and the kicking game, keeping us in the game. I did feel like we did a lot of things, playing the situation smartly. Got to give our hats off to Patrick Toney and Robbie Disher, first-year
play caller coordinators that had terrific openers. So, significant win in the history of this place. Certainly one that we can be proud of, and that positions us for future opportunities. But that's exactly what it is. It's a good quality win that's going to help us down the road if we do what we're supposed to do. So, we really had to hit the reset button here. I think handling success is an important part of having a quality program and being able to sustain. So, the big challenge here is to get back into our routine and execute our process the right way this week. Very impressed with Georgia State and some of the improvements that they made last year. I thought they were one of the best teams in our league last year. I know the quarterback got a little banged up at one point there, and that slowed them down. But I thought overall their personnel, conceptually, I was really impressed. We followed them quite a bit last year, so we had a chance to watch them every week. And hats off to Shawn and what he's been able to build there. That place is, really improved to where they've been a consistent winner, and certainly with the new stadium, new facility, a lot of respect for what he's been able to do. And this is going to be a heck of a challenge to go play at 12 noon Eastern at their place. They were 5-1 at home last year. Their only loss came to App. So really good football team that has a lot of veteran players on both sides of the ball coming back.
Thank you, Coach. Our first questions come from Chris Benini with The Athletic. Please go ahead, Chris.
Hey, Billy. What does it mean to not just you guys but the league to go 3-0 against the Big 12 in some pretty high-profile, high-exposure games?
Well, I think it's one of the benefits of this year. Obviously, there's a lot of negatives, and there's a lot of people disappointed that they don't get to play. But because we are playing as a league, because we have done the things necessary to have a safe plan and, have committed to that, we're getting the opportunity to play, and we're getting more exposure as a result of that. So I think you saw you see that it's becoming a trend that a Sun Belt Conference team is, capable of beating a Power 5 opponent each and every year. It's not like it just happened out of nowhere this year. It's happened in the past. I think it speaks to the big picture plan that Carl Benson put in place when he put the 2-division format in with the footprint that's in the Southeast. I think that all these teams, if they evaluate and recruit well, should have good rosters. And I think that, you're seeing coaches who've been around at their program for a little bit and have built good teams that had opportunities and made the most of them. So, in general, I think it's a great year for Group of 5 football, in particular the ones that are playing, because we're going to get more exposure and more opportunities to impress.
And you guys obviously had a lot of big special teams plays in that game, both good and bad. And really across the country, there were a lot of major special teams plays. Is that an aspect of the game that maybe is affected more by kind of the way things have been going on, with maybe less work being done and stuff like that?
Well, I do think, first of all, special teams are a huge part of our culture here. In my opinion, it's where you start. Relative to, having a expectation for effort, physicality. Oftentimes on the cover teams in particular, there can't be any fear. You guys have got to play with toughness. It's an opportunity to really start each possession with a certain edge. I like them because I think it's a makeup of offense and defensive players. There's crossover with the staff. I think the walk-on program and some of the second-tier players, sometimes young players get their first opportunity there. So it's a way for a guy to earn respect and earn stripes within the building. We call them game changers here, and it's a huge part of what we do. But as far as your question, I do think that, Chris. I think that most teams miss spring practice. That's where you really kind of put together the nuts and bolts of special teams from a fundamental standpoint. And then I think all the things that you can do in a voluntary setting for the first 5 weeks of the summer, most of those are catered to offense and defense. And then I think with teams maybe missing activity and missing practice, you don't get caught up. I know we had to change our plan during training camp because I felt like we were behind. We did some split meetings. We kind of added some extra time in certain phases and certain practices. So I do think that you're going to see that more and more. Now people will start trying to work on it now, but it may be too late. But we're always looking to make a game-changing play on special teams, and very fortunate to get two in this past week's game.
Appreciate it, Billy. Thanks for the time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Our next questions come from Dennis Dodd with CBS Sports. Please go ahead, Dennis.
Billy, congratulations. You've been at the highest levels of the Power Five. What is the difference between the better teams in the Sun Belt and some of these Power Five schools that you guys are competing against?
Well, I think you're seeing administrations maybe make a conscious effort in allocating people and resources to football at the Group of Five level, more like a Power Five structure. I think they realize the opportunities that come with having success, how that affects admissions, how that affects local economy, some of the opportunities you get because of the market of college football. I think you're seeing a trend where some Group of Five teams are trying to compete, and we both get 85 scholarships. I think there's a lot to be said for having a really efficient way from a financial perspective of doing things the same way, but doing, obviously navigating some of those. We don't have the budgets that they have, but that doesn't mean we can't operate like they do. So that's been our plan here. We've been very fortunate that we've got a president and athletic director that wanted that vision, had that vision, have committed the people and resources to try to do that. And over the last couple of years, we've made steady progress, and we hope to continue to get better and continue to improve.
And I think you mentioned it up top. Win or lose these games, you guys are being featured in national, nationwide telecast. How big is that?
Well, it's huge. I mean, I think more, and people are hungry for athletics, college football in particular. I think this past Saturday really was the first week of the season. I know there was a handful of games last week, but the number of games that were on, we happened to be on ESPN the first game right after game day. The amount of exposure really is priceless for this university and our community. So, in general, I think there's going to be more of those opportunities for lots of Group of Five football teams out there. So, very excited for our league, the Sun Belt Conference to go 3-0 in these Power Five games. They happen to all three be against Big 12 opponents, which I think is huge for our recruiting footprint. I think you'll see that affect some of the recruiting that will happen this year as a result of that.
Great. Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dennis. Our next questions come from Tony Barnhart with the SEC Network. Please go ahead, Tony.
Hi, Billy. Congratulations.
Thank you, Tony.
As Dennis said, you've coached at the top level of college football, and with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 apparently not playing for now, we'll see. You talked about additional exposure. I'm just hearing from people who say, maybe we need to take another look at some of these Group of Five champions when we start talking about the playoffs. What are your thoughts about that? Should the committee take a hard look at these Group of Five champions?
Well, I don't, Tony. I mean, I think there's an obvious difference. I mean, I don't want to. By no means do I think that some of these teams aren't deserving Okay, but when you start talking about picking 4 teams to go play for a national championship, you would have to have a really established, personnel would have to be as competitive. Some of the conversations I've had with my athletic director, Dr. Brian Maggard, is, okay, hey, once you do get it up and running, maybe you should play 2 Power Fives or, a year, and try to go win some of those games to earn some street credibility out there. But, I don't know that you're ever going to see a group of 5 team in the Final Four, but I do think that, some of these high exposure bowl games, where there's going to be opportunities for example, this year, if some of those bowls continue to play, I do think that some of these conference champions should deserve to play some of the best teams in Power 5 football at the end of the year. But Tony, you and I both know there's a huge difference in those 4 teams that make it, compared to maybe the conference champ in some of these leagues. But I think it could be done, and I think that those teams can play quality ball and could be competitive. I say all the time to our guys, hey, look, we don't have to beat them every week. We just got to play them one time and beat them one time. So trying to position our team and put them in a position to where we're sound and can go play and have an advantage. But I think it's a good question, and I think that maybe where this year you're going to see more conversations about it.
Thanks, Billy.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for you today. We do appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We are now joined with Chip Lindsey, the head coach of Troy. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, thank you very much for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Sure. Thanks for having me. It's good to finally be game week. I know our guys are really excited to get the opportunity to play this weekend. And after watching football the last 2 weeks, it's really been, kind of igniting that fire even more to being ready to play. I think we've really tried to handle the delay in our season and all the preseason practice as much as we can. We've tried to handle it as well as we can to keep our guys hungry, but at the same time fresh. And, I think that's kind of been the balancing act. But, I think we have a mature team now. We got a lot of guys coming back, and we've added some pieces, some older guys to the puzzle that, have been, really kind of handled this thing pretty well, I guess, very mature-like, and hopefully that's going to continue throughout the season. But we're excited, and we're not quite ready yet, but we're getting ready to go for this Saturday and looking forward to the opportunity. Question.
Thank you, Coach. Our first questions come from Dan McDonald with the Acadiana Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach. 2 questions. First, has it been difficult to sit back and watch these other teams that are getting all this exposure early in the year with the limited number of teams that are on TV from the big conferences, Sun Belt getting a lot more exposure? And 2, was this past weekend sort of a validation of what you and other coaches have been talking about, the quality of football in the league?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it's been hard watching those guys get the kind of the credibility or the pub. We had 3 schools this weekend in our league that had big wins, and that was actually exciting. And in fact, in this league, we're all know each other very well, and it's kind of neat to see some of the guys and your friends doing well at other places and big wins, and obviously congratulate those guys. And then, I think from our standpoint, I've said all along, I was in this league 10 years ago as an assistant coach, and it's just night and day different. I mean, I think it kind of, verifies what we've been talking about. There's just a bigger commitment, better coaches, better players, resources are better, and you can see it paying off, I think, all the way around our league, and so definitely think we're one of the top if not the top G5 school or G5 conferences, in our country. And I think this weekend was a big step headed in that direction to kind of, magnify that and maybe let the rest of the country know as well.
You're getting a chance to play nationally in the first game. Has the extra week helped you get ready for this game?
Well, I think it has. I mean, from the standpoint of just, you know, your typical bumps and bruises you get out of fall camp, preseason practice, and it's actually allowed the guys to really heal up, you know, and we're going to actually be probably really close to 100% as long as everything goes well, obviously, with testing this week. But we feel really good about the health of our team, and I'll be honest with you, we're just really excited to get on the field and play somebody different. You know, I think instead of going against each other every day, and I know our players are excited about that, and I think it's helped us really focus because we, you know, playing, I guess, 3 different opponents now in our game one. We really tried to focus more on just us and not necessarily anyone else. Now, this week, obviously, we've kind of dialed into Middle Tennessee, but previously we just said let's take the approach and try to improve our team each day and not worry about who we're playing until we know.
Appreciate it, Coach.
All right.
All right, thank you, Dan, and thank you, Coach. That's all the time we have for today. We do appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you. And we are now joined with Shawn Elliott, the head coach of Georgia State. If you have a question for Coach, please dial *1 on your phone at this time. Again, *1 to get in the queue. Coach, thank you very much for joining us today. Would you mind starting us off with an opening statement?
Certainly, it's always a pleasure to be here. And the first one of the year is game week against Louisiana and Coach Napier's team. Finally, I think everyone around the country, once they finally get to that first game, especially with a couple, cancellations, that it's an exciting time, of course. It's been a long, unusual camp, and, to some degree it's been good. To some degree we've had some stoppage of play, but we're ready to get going. I mean, got to tell you the truth, I know for myself and our staff, and when you talk to these individual players, it's going to be a great feeling to walk on that field and actually have a game of football to play and to escape and to go out there and compete, because that's ultimately all we want to do. And I think our players are extremely thrilled to be playing a great opponent. I think Louisiana, after defeating Iowa State, is coming in here in one poll number 19, another poll number 21. So that's going to give us our second conference opponent that comes in here as a ranked opponent, and that's a big time feeling. It's an ESPN2 game, and we're just we're ready to go play. That's exactly what we are. We're ready to go play.
Thank you, Coach. Our first questions come from Dan Mcdonald with the Acadiana Advocate. Please go ahead, Dan.
Morning, Coach. You talked about the Louisiana win and some of the other wins in the league. Does that sort of validate what you and other coaches have been talking about, the quality of this league for the last few years?
Well, I think, all of us coaches in this league understand the talent and the coaching that we have, and just the caliber of players, the fine men that go out there each and every week. And for the Sun Belt Conference to go out there and do what they did against the Big 12 the other night it was a proud feeling for all us coaches in this league, and it does validate it to some degree. But I think around the country, if you look at our games from a year ago, Coastal beat Kansas a year ago. We knocked off Tennessee. We're continuing to do things that's not surprising to us as players or coaches in this conference, and it's becoming really familiar that other coaches around this country are starting to see the same thing that we've always seen, that we can go out and play and we can compete.
How important has it been? You mentioned this game being on the Deuce. How important has it been for the league for the first couple of weeks to get all of this national exposure in addition to doing well and sort of filling those television spots?
Yeah, I think it's awesome, and I've had the chance to sit back and watch these games. So, to some degree, I've been a fan just like everyone else around the country, and to see the Sun Belt names pop up there on the networks and see the quality of play that's going out there. It really, it fires me up to see it because, like I said, I've known this and our players have known it, but to sit back and watch it on truly network television, the ESPN brand of television, to see us go out and play so well, that's a great thing.
Coach, you had some COVID issues early in practice, but it looks like a lot of those have been cleared up. Are y'all reasonably healthy going into the weekend?
Well, that's always the question. I think we're going to have our final test 72 hours before the first game. So to tell you the truth, I just play each day like it's my last and hope for the best. So we'll find out after Wednesday, but I think we're in good shape.
Appreciate it, Coach.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Our next questions come from Ben Moore with 24/7 Sports. Please go ahead, Ben.
Hey, appreciate it. Good afternoon, Coach.
Hey, Ben.
Yeah, a big game week, and certainly you mentioned the ranking there at home playing Louisiana. Something that jumped off the page for me, as well as I know your coaching staff, and you mentioned it, kind of having to work on special teams as the schedule moved back with the first 2 weeks. Well, we saw certainly what the Cajuns were able to do on special teams. Did that jump out, or certainly is that a focus this week in practice?
I don't think it's a focus. I think you have to go out and be prepared each and every week in your special teams. It certainly does catch your eye when you have, the 2 special teams touchdowns, of course, because, that instantly changes a game, and it certainly did for them. Those were 2 explosive plays, and, to be honest with you, it put them over the top and derailed that Iowa State football team. It kind of shocked them. So certainly we do have that, not in the back of our mind. It's certainly in the forefront, but we've got to go out and prepare just like we do each and every week. We've had a lot of, time in this camp to really finalize some things for us special teams wise, and I think we'll have a good plan going in.
Well, you mentioned, in previous interviews and different things like that, talking about some of the impact guys, specifically on defense, the younger guys. And you signal out a few guys, not to highlight those specifically, but I know did see the game notes released and a couple of new faces there specifically in the defensive secondary at safety. I know we had some turnover there in the previous season, so I was just wanted to see if you could touch on Ant Lane and Chris Moore.
Well, yeah, man, it's about making plays and being in the safety position. ID adjustments based on formation and getting our defense kind of set. I think Chris has come in with a wealth of knowledge, having a number of years under his belt and experience, good, game time experience. And then when you talk about old Tay Lane, Mr. Hitstick right there, he's a turnover machine and a short tackler. And anytime in the back end, you've got to have those short tacklers. And those 2 guys have done, I think, a really good job in camp and solidified themselves to go out there and start this first ball game.
Well, last question for me, and I appreciate the time, Coach. Noel Ruiz has come in and solidified that place-kicking position. He's listed as number 1 on the depth chart, taking over for Brandon Wright. I know he had obviously a ton of acclaim coming in to campus as an FCS All-American there at North Carolina A&T. What is he's shown you so far in fall camp?
What a great young man. I mean, he has come in. He's worked extremely hard. He's done everything we've asked of him. He's a guy that has a plan in place and goes out and executes it every single day. I mean, you just look at his eye, and he has a concentration level that, sometimes you look in a kicker's eye and you say, oh, they got that squirrely look and they act certain ways, but he has got a real concentrated look, a true competitor's look, and he attacks his kicking just like that. He's been a great surprise, not a surprise, but a great addition to our football team, and he is going to have a heck of a year.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ben, and thank you, Coach. That's all the questions I have for today. I do appreciate your time.
All right, thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, and this concludes this week's teleconference. We'd like to thank everyone for joining us. A copy of this will be posted on sunbeltsports.org later today. Thank you for joining us, and hope everybody has a great week.